Have you ever wanted to see a wrestling pay-per-view centered around a basketball star? If your response is anything other than,
"Excuse me, what?"
then boy oh boy, do I have the show for you. Rodman Down Under is the first and last pay-per-view event of the short-lived iGeneration Wrestling. But believe me, it was still one too many. I have so many questions that I don't think anyone can answer, and I don't even know the order to ask them in, so just give me a second because there's a lot to unpack here. The commentary on the show is rough. Not only is it worse than it has any right being, but it's also the exact opposite of what you'd hope to hear. Typically, commentary teams are comprised of a face and heel commentator, a good guy announcer and a bad guy announcer, who on occasion clash over the action going in the ring and the wrestler's moral compasses. The face commentator puts over the good guy, while the heel commentator defends and makes excuses for the villain. So a lot of the time it will cause the two to clash. When done right, this could add to the product. When done wrong, it can do a lot to take away from it. But it doesn't matter because you don't get that here, as Ted DiBiase commentates alongside Vince Mancini. And let me tell you, I don't know who Vince Mancini is, but I do know that I don't like him, very much so. His boring and bland commentary is only made that much worse when he spends the runtime sucking up to his co-commentator and taking jabs at the talent. It's not great, and it's especially at its worst in the first match. The commentators spend the entire match not actually transcribing what's going on in the ring, not by putting over the two legendary teams in this tag team match, but instead by clowning on Johnny Grunge for being fat. And I'm not saying they do it a little bit, I'm saying they do it the whole match.
Hey, Johnny Grunge is so fat he can't even get under that bottom rope.
But the Warriors look in better shape than Public Enemy. I can't explain.
Oh, look like Humpty Dumpty falling there. Man, get that guy on a diet.
The donut-sucking wrestler comes in.
I wonder what kind of workout routine this guy's on.
Yeah, lift the coffee into the donut.
Gotta be careful, Grunge can hardly get his leg up that high.
Johnny Grunge, Fat Farm Reject. Chubsy Wubsy breaking up the tag. Large and in charge.
Talk about a roll-up. Surprised they just roll right out of the ring.
That's a jelly roll-up, Ted.
It's like a turtle on his back.
Johnny Grunge's instinct is to go to the local buffet.
Where Grunge is concerned, though, you couldn't pin the guy. He's round. He can't ever get his shoulders flat. Oh, here comes Humpty Dumpty. Oh!
I'm big, and I do stress big, Johnny Grunge. He deserves the Iron Man Award of wrestling because he's carrying this team, and Johnny Grunge is a pretty big keister to carry.
And then you also get this when Fred Ottman comes out later.
Sugar Daddy.
That's an awful lot of sugar.
They say a lot of sugar's not good for your weight.
He's fat!
Alright, which one of you is supposed to be the good guy again? The commentary was taped after the show, a fact made apparent not just from the bad green screen, but also when the camera showed the commentary table, and it's clear that neither man that we saw before is seated there. Something they do their best to silently gloss over in commentary. The benefit of hindsight didn't help the two tell tonight's tale, as they're generally confused about what it is going on at all times, and even incorrectly guess how certain match stipulations work. To the benefit of this promotion, it does have a look. I'm not sure exactly what that look is, but it is a look nonetheless. The company's titles don't look too great though. And most importantly, they all look identical. It's not a good look to begin with, but then to just have it 4 times over makes me question to what benefit is this? It feels like a really lazy attempt from a company chock full of lazy attempts. In between each and every match, the iGenerates come down to the ring to perform. Ah yes, another 2000s Fed, another discount Nitro girls. This was definitely a thing at the time. Which is strange because it's only worked for one company and that's the one that started this. And it didn't even work all the time for them. The show opens up with a video package that shows NBA star Dennis Rodman attacking the former Mr. Perfect Curt Hennig following a world title victory. During that attack, a tumultuous history between the two is referenced, and I think that they're referencing their time in WCW, but I don't even know if they've ever interacted back in the day. I know they were both in the NWO, but yeah, like them and 30 other people at the same time. You would really have to search to find a picture of the two standing side by side. I just don't know if that history hits as hard as they're making it sound like it does. The two will be competing tonight for Hennig's IGW World Championship, to which the commentators proudly proclaim it's wrestling meets basketball. No offense, but who is clamoring to see that crossover? How does being a basketball player help you be a wrestler? His time in WCW is never acknowledged outright, and the commentators treat him as a first-time wrestler for the most part. Which is strange because he's clearly wrestled publicly on a much grander scale than this, with opponents who were arguably bigger stars than Curt Hennig. Though I don't know who would even try to argue that point. The show starts off with Curt Hennig calling out his main event opponent early on, to which the Worm responds, standing at the ramp and cutting a typical heel promo. Which, again, kind of confuses me. You have the show named after a celebrity guest in your company who's not even being booked as a babyface? I mean, at least the return of RoboCop was named after the good guy. Following this, we're shown a brawl that took place at a press conference between two major tag teams, the Road Warriors and Public Enemy. This is to set up this tag team tables match with the company's tag team titles on the line. Except this doesn't seem to operate like your standard tables match, as the two teams are trying to score pinfalls throughout. And it doesn't go by tornado rules either, meaning that the teams need to tag each other in during a tables match. Oh, and both men on each team have to be put through a table and pinned to win. I guess. If you're confused at home listening to this, don't worry about it because so was the commentary team watching it, who scrambled to figure out what exactly the rules are, which is even funnier when you realize the commentary was recorded at a later date. So I guess just no one felt the need to inform Ted DiBiase and friend.
They gotta put both guys through a table to win. Is that not correct?
That's exactly what happens. Puck with the cover. But Ted, the only way to win the match is to put your guy through the table. That's wrestling instinct right there.
The turtle on his back.
Wait a minute, why are these guys instinctively going for the count, Ted?
It's just instinct.
I also realized that apparently all of Rocco Rock's heel work just consists of him randomly looking at the crowd and shouting "shut up" repeatedly. I mean, I get it, it's classic. That's old reliable in terms of bad guy antics in the ring, but usually people wait to be booed first. If you're familiar with both teams and what both teams were capable of doing around this time, you know what you're gonna get. Brawling. All in all, I actually thought, strange match type aside, that this was alright. Not good, but alright. From what it looks like, these two tag teams were the company's only tag teams, and they literally trade the belts back and forth at every show. Wow, how exciting. Up next, the Barber takes on the Barbarian in a hardcore match. That's right, directly after a tables match, we get a hardcore match. Not really a whole lot of diversity in terms of match types tonight, huh? The commentary team even makes a note of this.
I guess hardcore just means we're gonna use different furniture, right?
Brutus Beefcake is introduced as Brute Force, which makes that, gimmick 15 or 16 now? But he enters wearing his Mega Maniacs tights? Look, the same way Horace shouldn't be allowed to carry the last name Hogan, Brutus Beefcake shouldn't be allowed to wear the red and yellow when Hulk isn't in attendance. But it's alright because neither man can do as much damage to the name Hogan as Hulk himself. The match is everything you'd expect it to be, and less. While both men have had their share of matches, I wouldn't even call this match a walk and brawl. It's more like a stroll and beat. The pace is slow and they're off. It just kind of feels like they're making it up as they're going along, and not really doing a great job at disguising that. There's not a story being told here. It's just two dudes doing whatever comes to mind. And hey, a lot of people do that. Not everyone sits down to figure out every single little intricacy of their match. But even in saying that, they usually get better results. It's pretty bad and it just meanders, until eventually the man with no name hits all the finishers he's been storing up, only to eat a boot and take the pin. Psychology. What is that? The first and last women's match of the night sees Brandy Wine, who looks like an indie-rific Sable, with her manager Sugar Daddy, which in actuality is the Shockmaster hitting a brand new low. Taking on Sweet Destiny, who enters the ring alongside legendary boxer Aussie Joe, a man most renowned for going toe-to-toe with Muhammad Ali. Why is he involved? Why is he wearing a ref's uniform? It's Rodman Down Under, man. I don't ask questions. What sense is there in trying to make sense of any of this? This match is a low point in a night that has yet to have a high point. It's filled with botches, bad timing, and what looks like two people exercising the two moves they know in a span of 11 minutes. Something's supposed to happen at the end, but they're not in the proper places, so they just have to randomly adjust and find their way into place, and it's not exactly seamless. The highlight of the match doesn't even involve the participants, as Aussie Joe gets involved and hits Sugar Daddy, who strangely sells it as being stunned for a millisecond before getting back up just to argue with the guy. Oh, that's great. Suffice it to say, Trish and Lita, this was not. Though, that hair flip looked kinda cool. Sweet Destiny wins, and nobody cares.
Well, Ted, let me ask you this. You've been around wrestling for a while. Do these girls fit in with some of the greats that have been around?
Oh, definitely.
Tatanka defends his IGW Australasian Championship against One Man Gang in a match that is just a match. I know that's a weird thing to say, but this match is your standard match. There's nothing truly terrible about it. It's not a botch-filled disaster or mistimed mess. It's just that it's not all that entertaining, all things considered. It's competent in ring work from two guys who are capable of better, had they been on a bigger stage and less time been removed from their prime. Though to be fair, Tatanka was still 6 years away from his long-awaited WWE return. Yeah, you remember that? It's okay, nobody does. At one point, One Man Gang randomly threatens to leave, but then immediately makes his way back to the ring. And say what you will about the quality or lack thereof in this match, One Man Gang proves that he's still a quality heel by inciting the crowd to pelt him with garbage. Personally, I think the match's biggest problem is that it was afforded too much time. Had it been condensed down to a shorter, simpler match, it probably would have made a much better impression. In wrestling, sometimes less is more. And this was more than enough. It was just too much of nothing of note. Again, the match isn't awful, but it is awfully boring. When something interesting does happen, it's in between long bouts of boredom, and it's not enough to make up for the filler that led up to the spot. Ultimately, the bad guy cheats, gets the win, taking the title to become the new IGW Australian Alaskan Champion, or whatever it's called. After a mandatory dance break, it's time for a main event, as the once perfect Curt Hennig puts his World Championship title on the line against the Worm, Dennis Rodman. Now, what's important to note is that this is an Australian Outback match, which really just means that it's yet another hardcore match. And what's equally important is that despite it being the main event match, it is not a main event quality match. It's another walk and brawl that relies heavily on the use of weapons, something we've seen all too much of tonight. You gotta give credit to Curt, who works around Rodman's greener nature and inexperience, selling his offense like a champ and almost making him feel like a credible challenger in just the way that he presented it. Curt was working with what he got, and he did the best that he could. It's clear who is leading this match, as Curt barely hides that he's talking to Rodman and the ref throughout, calling spots at a very audible volume. To Rodman's credit, he looks a lot more comfortable and capable here than he did in his WCW run. I mean, he's not Lou Thez by any means, but the guy's properly selling and tossing himself around the ring, and even manages to hit a move or two that looks interesting. This match is actually passable if you're judging it on a curve, but that being said, I would still pass on it if I had the opportunity. And any near goodwill it built up goes out the window in the finish, where Rodman gets disqualified in a no disqualification match. Rodman attacks the officials, causing the match to be called off. So the babyface Hennig, out of frustration, then goes on to attack more officials after the match. Great! The two proceed to brawl until Aussie Joe and Brutus Beefcake wind up getting involved to tear the two apart. The event ends with Hennig getting checked on by medical staff in the back, where he tells cameras that Dennis Rodman doesn't belong in the wrestling business. What a note to end this on. The already half-empty arena fully empties as the commentators pat the promotion and each other on the back for a brilliant event to close the show off. And that was Rodman Down Under. I don't know what that was, and I don't know why that was, but I can confirm that that was. And that's more than anybody should ever have to say about this. If you like this video and want to see me cover more wrestling shows here on the channel, let me know in the comment section below by leaving a comment saying,
"Ooh, that's not wrestling."
I am vengeance. I am the night. And that was Infuso. Just remember, if you're not tuning in, then you're missing out.
So, if you like the words that came out of his mouth hole, and you too would like to become a V-generate, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, nerds!
And if you're not joining the fun, you're in for one bad day. And you know what they say about having one bad day?
Catch him next time. Same bat time. Same bat channel.